Okay, Computer Science 2, we are going to start what I'm considering a brand new unit of study. We are going to really work hard to nail down some Java syntax. We're going to work on getting input from a user from a scanner. And we're going to learn a little bit about how files are stored and just a little bit more about how this stuff really works. So we'll be using BlueJ today. So BlueJ doesn't do quite as much for us. We can do everything in BlueJ that we do in Greenfoot, but we have to just do a little bit more work, and that's good because I want you to see a little bit more work. All right, so we're going to start. We're going to make a new class today, and I want you to just call it, this is a project that I made called Math Work, and I just want you to call this Math Help. And hit OK. And we'll double click on that. And I'm just going to get rid of all this. Okay? And we'll say public class math help. All right, so when a Java program is run, and I want us to make some of these programs into what are called jar files. A jar file is an executable as long as you have Java installed on your machine. BlueJ has Java built into it, so you may actually have to download, you could download the software development kit called the JDK separately. You could also download just the Java JRE, Java Runtime Environment. The runtime environment is included in the JDK. So we'll look at that again. If your machine does not have Java loaded on it, you'll have to do that. But right now, when we've been doing code, we've been making a lot of stuff for ourselves, not something that we could give to someone else that doesn't have BlueJ, doesn't have a development environment. So we want to move towards making freestanding programs that you could give to somebody and they could run. And so we'll look at that as well. So let's talk a little bit about how a Java program is run. Every program has to have an entry point. Back in the day, when programming first started, the entry point to a program was the first line of code. Well, that causes a lot of problems, to tell you the truth, because the first line of code means that you can't have anything preloaded before the program runs. So it would be much better to have the ability to load things and then run something when you're ready. In something like Python, it's still run in order from top to bottom, so you have to load everything and have the entryway at the bottom. Java's not like that. The order of functions and methods in Java make no difference. So what they're looking for is specific keyword. And if you don't put in this specific keywords, the program will not run. You'll get an error saying, cannot find main file, main method. So we're going to define what's called the main method. The main method must be public, and it must be what's called static. It must be void, and it must be called main. And it has to take in what's called an array. And we've talked a little bit about arrays in this class, but that's how you make an array. It has to be an array of strings. And then the variable name I put in here, I can put anything I want. I could put, it's an array, so probably want to call something plural. I could call it gorillas, Jeds, anything I want. But stylistically, it's preferred to say args, because what they are is called command line arguments. So when you run a program, you can actually run a program and give it extra words to do. Okay? So let's go ahead and just say system.out.println args bracket 0 plus quote quote plus args bracket 0. So now when we run the program, it's going to print whatever word we do twice. So let's go ahead and just hit compile. Class compiles with no errors. And I don't think we have the ability to open surrounding functions. So I'm going to go back to the project, and I want to make sure that I have this saved in the right place. Let me see if I have. No, we're going to have to go back to the home screen. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to navigate to this file. If you're not sure where this is, you can hit save as. That's the location right there. It's saved in these folders, okay? And I'm just going to hit Control C on that. I'm going to go down here to the search bar and I'm going to hit CMD for command prompt. And we'll go to the command prompt. Now, if you're using a Macintosh, this is called Terminal. And it should bring you to something like that. All right, so this here is the command prompt. Now, the command prompt is where programs are run. And it is, when Windows came out, when Microsoft came out with Windows, that was built on their earlier operating system called DOS. And so this is just like DOS. So early, I remember when Windows came out. I remember it was exciting. Like you could just click on a program, it would run. Whereas for most of my childhood, I had to run it from here. So, and that's really all a window does. A window has what's called a batch file. The batch file puts in some commands to run the actual program, but the real control comes down here. And there's still certain things that you can't do outside of the command prompt. Well, anyway, what I want to do is go to, I want to navigate to this. So let's talk about how to change directory. CD is how you change directory in most like Linux and Windows kind of operating systems. And if you hit CD ... what's going to happen is you'll go up a directory. Okay? So you see now I'm no longer in the folder users J Wilshire. I'm in just the folders users. If I want to go back, I have to hit CD like that, and then I'll move up a level. Okay? Now I want to navigate, and you can see it in your Windows folders here. I'm working my way to here. I want to navigate to under J Wilshire. I want to go to Google Drive. So I'll say CD Google Drive. And now you can see I've gone to a new folder. Your folder might be different. I'm going to where I saved it. I saved it in my Google Drive. You may have saved it somewhere else. Now, if you saved it on, like, say, a flash drive, your flash drive is likely called, like, E. And that would be like that. But I don't have a flash drive installed, so my E, you can see it says no drive specified, so it won't work. You just type in the drive name and hit colon. All right, I am in computer science, so I have to go a pretty long way, actually. I have to go, so I can say CD, CS. If I want to look at the directories, I type in dir, and it brings up all these directories, right? It brings up everything that's in the directory. I could say dir/p, and what it does is it pauses as it goes through them. You see I've got lots of them here. But I'm going to be going to CS2 pre-AP. So CD CS2 pre-AP. Now I'm in that folder. And again, I can look at that. I've got a lot of stuff there as well. But I'm going to Scanner and Classes Unit. And you can see that's where I have my math work. All right, I've finally navigated to this folder. All right, but I'm going to show you one other way to do this. I'm going to say C:, and it's going to, well, actually, CD ... CD ... CD ... So what if you're all the way back to the C drive? Well, you can actually type in the whole thing, and starting with Windows 10, you're allowed to actually paste to the command prompt. So what I did was I copied and pasted, when I said save as, I copied and pasted that folder location. You can also navigate here in your window to where you want to go. You can go to CS2 pre-AP is where I'm at. And I'm doing, oh, what are we doing here? This one. And you can actually right click and say copy address or copy address as text. And you can paste it. So no matter where you are, you can just say CD for change directory and then type the whole thing in like that, and there you go. All right, well, you can see that we have two files. We have mathhelp.java. We have mathhelp.class, and we have package.bluejay. That package.bluejay is for BlueJ. But to run the program, we need mathhelp. So what we do is we just say Java mathhelp. And it says Java is not a thing because I need to install it. So if you just go Google download Java, you can go here and just download it. And you may have to make a license or something like that. But it should be free. This is the JRE, so it won't allow you to program outside of BlueJ, but you can download the JDK as well and go through the instructions. But I'm just going to go ahead and download this and run it. All right, so if you have Java installed, you can run the program by simply saying Java math help like that on your control terminal. But I'm going to stop that at this moment. Okay, let's run this in BlueJ. We right-click on this. Depending on the version of BlueJ you have, you might actually have an option here that says Run Main Method. Just depends on, which version you have. Mine's up to date. Okay, the older versions used to, I guess, have that. So we're just going to click Void Main String Args, and it's going to ask us for args. If we don't give it any, then we're going to get an error because we're actually using our command line arguments, okay? So let's run it again. This time we'll give it a command line argument of hello world. And we'll click OK, and you'll see that just like our program says, it prints it twice. Yes, you have to put it inside the curly braces. Okay, so that's called using command line arguments, and that's one way that you can get user input in a Java program. And that's like the most basic way. And so quite often the command line arguments are like file names, like if you want Java to perform something on a file. So it's pretty specific stuff that you would do that for. All right, but that being said, this is the signature. Public static void main string args that you have to have for your program to run on on somebody's machine. Okay? So the next thing I want to do is I want to talk about how to get information from a user from a scanner. So we're going to go up here to the top and we're going to say import java.util.scanner. So I would say the two most popular classes are packages in Java are util and lang. So these are the two packages that we use most often. This one here is so common. Lang has string, lang has the wrapper class integer, lang has the most basic stuff. It's so common that all of those classes are automatically imported for us. But scanner is in util, and you do have to import the util items. So now we're going to create a scanner object. So the way we create an object in Java is we start with a variable name for the object. So I'm going to start with the word scanner. Then we need to give it a variable name. And I'm going to call it KB for keyboard. Because we're going to be scanning the keyboard input. Now we have to call the scanner constructor. So let's take a look at the scanner class. And I like to use, you can get there If you go to BlueJ, you can say help. You can say Java class libraries. That's one way to get it. I like to use 9, but this is fine. And we're going to say, let's search for, in the upper right-hand corner, you can see there's a little search bar. Let's search for scanner. And you can see java.util.scanner. And we want to look at the constructor. So you can just click right here on constructor for constructor. Look at all the constructors we have to choose from. We can scan a file. We can scan what's called an input stream. We can scan a string. We can also scan like a file path. So lots, and then we can add extra ways of handling that. Well, we're going to look at an input stream, okay? So let's take a look at that. We have file input streams, object input streams, lots of that. String buffer input streams. Actually, I misspoke. We're not going to be looking at input streams. We're going to be looking at... All right. Yeah, no, we are looking at input streams. Okay. So we're going to go to an input stream, and these are different subclasses, but we're going to be scanning an input stream. So the input stream is actually a static object in what's called system. So there is input stream. There's also a print stream. So there's in and out. You've probably seen out before. In fact, we just used it. This is an output stream. When we say system.out.println, we're saying we want to print to an output stream. That's an output stream. We also have file output streams if we want to write to a file. But this just writes to the console. Well, we also have an input stream that belongs to system. So we say system.in. So there we go. That's how we create objects in Java. We put a variable name. First, we give it a type. Our type is scanner. Then we give it a variable name. And then I forgot the word new. Then we say new. We say the class, and we say what we want in the constructor. So let's try using a little bit of this scanner. We're going to say, if I say, let's look at the methods of scanner right quick. Okay, so we'll go back to our scanner, and we were in constructors. We're going to go to method. Okay. And there's a lot that we can use here, but I want to focus on just a couple, okay? I want to focus on next today a little bit, and then we'll look at a couple more. So next finds and returns the next token, as they say. So the tokens are separated by, separators. And for us, they'll be spaces. So the word next will scan until the space is taken. Okay? So we're going to say, and what does next return? Next returns a string. So I'm going to catch what it returns. So I'll say string word, and I'm going to call kb dot next. So the scanner's name is KB. To call the next method, I have to call it on my scanner. And it will return a word. And what I want to do is I just want to print it twice. So we'll go to the output stream. Like so. All right. And then hopefully you get your class compiled there. Okay, so let's run our program and see how it behaves this time. So we're no longer using our arguments, so we don't have to supply arguments anymore. I want to take a second, though, to bring this up. We are slowly talking about static. I think static's the most confusing part of Java, so I like to slowly bring it in. Static methods are class methods. They belong to the class. They're called on the name of the class. So if I right-click on math help, you'll notice if I make a new, you don't need to do this, just watch. If I make a new instance of this class, I don't have any methods here because these are methods that are non-static. So that would be me calling it on the object. Well, these are not object methods, or what we call instance methods. Remember, an object is an instance of a class. These are static methods. They're called here. So I can either type it in here. I can say mathhelp.main, but then I got to give it a string. But I'm just going to call it from here. Remember, main is your driver. It's the driver of your program. So we run that, and we can just say, okay. And up comes the console, and you'll notice at the bottom, let me shrink this a little bit so I can move it up a little higher. Okay. All right, you'll notice that at the bottom it says type input or press enter to send a program. So this is our input stream down here. This is our output stream up here. So I'm just going to say hello. In blue, BlueJay showing the input, and we said to print out twice. And that's it. That's the end of our program. Let's run it again. So we'll just say that and say OK. Now I'm going to type in hello world. But notice what happens is it just says hello twice. Because the next token is the space. So when I say kb.next, what happens is it scans my input up to hello, sees the space, and that's where it tells it to stop. So it won't go any further. All right, so let's change our program, and I'd like to look at a different method in the keyboard class, or excuse me, in the scanner class. So I'm back here in my documentation. Again, you can get there by just going. You have to be on this page here. You can go to Help, Java Class Libraries, and then search for it. So I'm going to go back to my methods. And we just learned next. We're definitely not going to learn all these, although they're very similar. We're going to look at next line. That's what I want to look at. So this advances the scanner past the current line and returns the input that was skipped. This method returns the rest of the current line, excluding any line separated at the end. So what this is going to do is going to scan an entire line of text. If this was a Word document or something I was scanning, it would scan an entire line until it gets what's called the return character. Now, the return character really is a character stored in your computer. So that's what it uses, the token of the return character, not the space. So let's change this to next line and see how our program behaves differently. Okay. So we have that, and now I'm going to go ahead and run my program again. And I'm going to type in, again, hello world. Notice I'm not typing these in quotes because they already are quotes. It's an input stream. It's already taken in as a string. This time you'll notice that it prints out the entire hello world twice. So that's pretty great. All right, the next thing I want to talk about, so when would you use next line? Use next line if you want the entire line of text. It has to come in as string. We don't have any options to change it like we're going to learn. And notice it gives you a little bit of, it gives you a little bit of loss of control there. So I want to go ahead and do something else. Okay, so we're going to use a while loop. Okay, we're going to say, Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use a loop instead. So I'm going to say while true. If I say while true, this loop will continue forever. And I'm going to say string word equals kb.next. So we're going to take in one word at a time. I'm going to say if word dot equals. Now, you might think, well, can I just say word equals equals? Well, you can't. We can't use equals equals for strings. We have to use dot equals because it's an object. So if word dot equals quit, then I'm just going to say break. Now, what break will do is break this while loop and stop it. Else, again, we're going to continue this thing of just printing the word twice. So let's compile it, and then we'll run it. Sure. So we're going to scan in a word, and whatever word they give us, we're going to print it twice. But if they type in the word quit, it'll stop the program. While true will continue forever unless you say the word break. All right, I'll compile it, and we'll go from there. Okay, so now you should be able to type in, words. We are using next, so we're not using next line though. If we wanted to be able to say two words, we would have to go back to using next line. So you notice it does it like that, but it does get the second letter though, because what's happening is if I say A, B, C, D, E, F, what's going to happen is kb.next. kb.next is going to scan just this next word that I typed in. Well, it's still going to have this other stuff, but because we're in a loop, it's going to loop again and get the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one until it's done. So you notice it went through one at a time and then asked me again for more input. I'm going to go ahead, though, and type in quit, which should make the program stop. You'll notice you can only enter input while your program is running. All right, so that's kind of our introduction to scanners. We also talked about a static method as a method that is run on the class. We talked about this key signature that any program that's run outside of BlueJay's environment has to have. Because if you're going to run it on any machine, you have to have that. More on that later. What I'm going to have you do is to make a program that asks the user what their name is, and I want you to get their first and last name, and then I want you to say hello to them, and then I want you to say, I want you to use each part. So I want you to say, hello, Mr. Wilshire, your first name is Jed, or maybe, may I call you Jed? So look for the instructions on that, and that's what we'll be doing first.